Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nurture on the Go Sober October. I am here with my dear friend Theresa, who has not only gone through recovery herself, but it has also guided many people through their recovery journey from being, I don't even want to call anybody an addict. I don't know what are the words that we would say, guiding somebody from the place of not being sober to the place of kind of clarity, because I think of sobriety and I even think of like addiction is not always what we think it is. So I'd be curious how you would put that journey or what terms you would use, Theresa.
Yeah, I think that, there's so much stigma around addiction and recovery and sobriety. And I think really like the work that I do when helping someone along their journey of, getting sober from using any substances is really just the behaviors of, getting someone from these blockages of subconscious patternings and behaviors and thinking that are blocking them from really becoming their truest potential, becoming their highest self. And there's just some behaviors that we're using to seek false connection, to seek false love. And they're really here to, help us survive. And we've built these beautiful, in a way, coping mechanisms, but it reaches a point where it's no longer serving us and it's actually killing us in a sense. And it's helping someone along their journey to, get sober, to get clean, and then find, better coping mechanisms to seek that love, to seek that connection in healthier ways that actually serve to reach that highest self, highest potential.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious because, and I want to talk about your origin story. I want to start, we'll get to that, but I just want to like lay groundwork for language right now, because my curiosity about addiction, because again, I struggle with the word addiction and rather usually transpose it as habit. And again, it doesn't have to be good habit or bad habit, but as you put it, is coping. And that habit is sort of that crutch. And addiction doesn't begin automatically. It becomes the habit. It becomes the easy thing that we seek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, from a neurochemical and, brain chemistry way, it is habit. We have built these neural pathways and, these chemical hits, dopamine releases, serotonin releases in our brain. And so it is habitual of like when you are picking up substance, whether that's food, whether that's alcohol, whether that's a substance, it's like you are seeking, a certain hit, these neuro, pathways, these chemistries within your prefrontal cortex. And it's actually habitual of like, you have sort of like body hacked and you have figured out a way again to survive in this world. This world again, energetically is a lot to handle being a human being, and so we subconsciously have created these patterns, created these coping mechanisms to feel better, to feel at ease, to feel comfort. And so, in whatever form that may look like. And so that habit is, reaching for the food at night, opening up the fridge, subconsciously you walk into the fridge at night and you don't even know how you got there. Mm-hmm. And that's the habit, you have to have your glass of wine, when the kids are like at bed. And that's the habit of like, you have hacked your brain, you have hacked the system
right.
to know what works, to get your nervous system regulated and to feel that ease. But actually when you look at it, you're not feeling that ease because your nervous system actually isn't going into sympathetic response. It's still at that high vibration. And so it's really understanding that these substances, these coping mechanisms aren't giving you the release and the energetic, discharge that you really need. And so it's actually putting down these coping mechanisms and finding it in healthier ways to reach again, like your highest self, your truest self, in this lifetime.
Right. And I love that. I love that you use all the science with regards to how the dopamine levels are being released and how the frontal cortex is being fed. And then I go a step further even in that, and I'm thinking about like the other cycle of habit is abuse. And part of the addictive cycle is abuse, is how I see it, is the other habit. And my curiosity is, which side are we actually more addicted to, or which side are we actually getting the hit from? Because I'll use myself as an example. I was, and still occasionally do, make the mistake of smoking cigarettes. And when I say make mistakes, I do it on purpose, guys. This is not, something that I'm not aware I'm doing. But cigarettes were like an early thing that I did, an early habit. And cigarettes certainly, I think nicotine's almost more habitual than addiction because of what it does. Yes, you get a little high from it, but ultimately it's like, for me, it's that taking of a breath. It's that taking time for myself, if you will. But what I'm more intrigued by is that when I choose to do it, the next day is actually all abuse. It's all about, I can't believe you did that again. What the fuck were you thinking? Why are you so dumb? You know better than this, et cetera, et cetera. So my curiosity from your standpoint in taking people through recovery, which side do you think we're recovering from? The abuse cycle or the exciting high of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's twofold. There is no answer, because really it's a holistic approach. It's all felt like everything, because what you see is, again, the brain, the human, our bodies, it's so intelligent. It's so beautiful. And so, like, when it comes to substances, when it comes to all these things, like subconscious, like patternings, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It doesn't have to be drugs. Again, like, there's so much stigma of, like, sobriety and recovery. It's, this, it has to be this large substance. You have to hit rock bottom. You have to, be this person who has hit their edge. But again, it's these little tiny behaviors that are blocking us from reaching our highest self, being alive, being fully present in this world, not numbing out to, all of these things. And it really goes to trauma bonding, as children. And we develop all of these little subtle patterns to make us feel safe in this world, to make us feel loved, to make us belong, to make us feel accepted. And so, cigarettes, for instance, that is an oral fixation thing. And it's, again, it can be so connected to, mother wounds, father wounds, relationship stuff. And so your body intelligently is helping you and it's serving you in this way. And so it's really getting to that root cause of, like, how is this serving me? What is the intelligence behind this? And how can I replace this with something that's really loving to self? Because it's actually, again, like, there's this unconscious self-sabotaging behavior that when you actually pick it up, it's creating this cycle of trauma bonding. It's creating this cycle of self-sabotaging. It's creating this cycle of, like, just hatred towards self. And we do it because people who were abused, people who were neglected, people, who were hurt, sometimes it feels more normal to be hurt than to be loved. And so we will lean towards things that hurt us because that feels normal to us than to step into the light, to step into the love, to step in grace. And it's realizing that we all deserve love, and we all deserve, grace, and we all deserve to live this life of beauty. And that's been the hardest thing on my personal journey, is, like, realizing that, like, I actually deserve, like, a beautiful life. I deserve to live to my highest self. I deserve, to receive, just to receive.
That's a big one.
Yeah. And so once we can kind of just have the awareness of these, of, like, oh, wow, I'm still using some behaviors. I'm still the thinking too. It doesn't have to even be action or external thing. It's even,
well, that's what I think. It's like, it's not like, when I talk about Sober October, and I don't know if you've been following any of my posts leading up to Sober October, but the clarity that I want everybody to get to is, this isn't just about substance. It's what are the coping mechanisms that are preventing us from going to the places that we actually want to go? What are the avoidances that we're using? What are the tiny tactics that we do to kind of upend ourselves, to get our ego to start saying, you're a fucking stupid ass, like, to start talking bad about ourselves? Because that self-sabotage piece is really what I think is, at least what I'm after in this month, is that expansion past the date. Because what I notice is like the runway, if you're not constantly working to stretch the physical, emotional, mental runway of good, joy, happiness, beauty, being, like you keep bringing up these lovely words, like we deserve to be our highest self. We deserve to feel good. We deserve to have a beautiful life. And we do, but it is also a bit earned.
Yeah.
It is not an overnight, aha, look, I got it. I figured it out. It's like it's a daily practice, I feel.
Yeah.
And you and I have known each other for a minute here, long enough to know that we have patterns. Even if we're not in addiction pattern or in substance abuse, there's still a pattern of abuse.
Yeah.
Like you get this high, I get this high, and then immediately I do this. Like my ego comes in and goes, oh,
yeah,
let's try that. Doesn't that feel better? Wasn't that a little too high for you? Weren't you a little bit scared there? Doesn't that feel better? And then I work myself back up to high again, and then I take myself down. And I don't know if you ever read Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. Have you ever read that one?
No, yeah.
I think it's like exactly what you're talking about, but kind of trying to get us to plateau here and maybe even experience higher.
Yeah.
Like to break the joy glass ceiling completely, bust that myth.
Totally. Yeah.
So let's talk about your origin. Let's talk about like, I mean, where do you want to really begin your story? Because one of the things we've never talked about is how you ended up in substance abuse and what the journey was from that point. Like, what was the trigger leading you into that space? And then what I would love to hear the arc into what brought you out of it.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, really looking back on my life, it started from the age of 3. Like I was so smart. Like I was this little girl who, was so uncomfortable. Like I just didn't feel safe. I didn't feel okay. Something was off. I had high anxiety. And so at like 3 years old, I would hide pixie sticks under my bed. And that was the first way I knew how to hack my system. I knew how to hack my brain. Like anytime, there was chaos going around or I felt uncomfortable or anything was happening, I would go under my bed and I would just down a pixie stick. And like, it was, it was so smart, like so smart. This little girl who again, like just felt so uncomfortable, like knew that she could get this release with sugar. And like for those 3 seconds, everything felt okay in the world and I could breathe. And that was the beginning of like, my journey with finding ease and comfort and things outside of self to feel okay in the world. And then from there on, like, it's like your prefrontal cortex, your nervous system, like your body develops in a way of needing higher highs, needing hits, needing things to be okay in this world, to feel safe, to belong, to feel comfortable. And so, as in middle school and as a teenager, it progresses from, sugar to developing like eating disorders, and like self-harming behaviors, because it's, again, I need that release. I need something energetically, because I didn't know health and coping mechanisms to deal with how I felt inside. And then in high school, I turned a lot to partying, and, just lots of partying and, exploration with that kind of stuff. And every time I did party, I could not stop once I picked up a drink. It wasn't like I could have one beer or I could have, one thing. It was just like, yeah, I needed the high. I felt like when I produced any sort of substance, when I produced any sort of like altering behavior within my body, it was like I was off to the races. I needed something else. Like I needed just to like climb and get out. All my anxiety, all my fears, all my worries, you know, just went away. And I could.
And may I ask something, Theresa, because I feel like this is a misnomer about substance abuse or addiction patterns. I haven't heard you once say anything about your self-worth in this. Rather, I've heard you say you were physically uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I bring that up because a lot of people think that this is only tied with somebody's lack of self-worth.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't tied with self-worth. I think like, again, I've worked with a lot of clients. I've, you know, coached hundreds of people, and it's so multi-layered. It's like, again, everyone's heard the onion analogy, but you peel something and then you go underneath. But the self-worth piece isn't tied with the substance specifically. You know, it's tied with just being human. It's tied with being a person in the society. It's tied with, you know, all of societal's expectations, all these things that we see on a daily basis, all the stuff we see in social media. It's tied with, you know, family backgrounds. It's tied with all this stuff. And the substance is just, again, a thing to find relief, to find connection, to find love, to find belonging. But all of that deeper work of worth, belonging, you have to get sober. You have to, you know, clear your body physically to do that deeper internal work. But you're not, everybody in the world has it. It's not specific to like someone who's, you know, an addict or in recovery, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
What age were you when you had the aha, this doesn't feel good anymore?
Mm-hmm. I was 19 when I got sober and I got into recovery.
Yeah. How bad had it gotten? Like, was there a bottom or was there just an aha?
You know, I mean, everybody has a different bottom of tolerance of what they can handle. And, you know, I mean, I've worked with people where their bottom is just like, they're having a glass of, you know, wine, or they're, you know, going to parties like too much. And again, like, they're like, I don't want to live my life like this anymore. And this is not in alignment with self. And to someone on the outside, they're like, you're fine, you know, like, but again, to them, in alignment with their truth, that doesn't serve them for what they want to do in this world. And they step into recovery. And then I've worked with people where their bottoms are like bottoms, you know, where they're losing things that are really horrifying, and they're in situations that aren't healthy. And so everybody's bottoms are completely different, because it's their tolerance and what's in alignment with their truth is different, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was yours, if you don't mind sharing?
Mine, I was in college my first year. And again, like, you know, my future of what I envisioned for myself and where I wanted to go in this life, because of the behaviors that I was using. I was very active in my eating disorder. You know, I was partying, and I could not keep up. I could not keep up with my course load. I could not keep with athletics. I could not keep up with anything. And again, it was like my heart was tearing and I felt no sense of hope. Mm-hmm. And I knew I had like two things, is either like, I am going to die, like, and live the rest of my life like trapped and imprisoned within self, and using these external things to feel okay and like maintain this level of life, or I can ask for help. Mm-hmm. And, you know, change. Like, there's nowhere to go. There's the place that I was at, it was only going down, right? Or I could ask for help and hopefully go up.
Yeah. What is that? I want to talk about the ask for help thing, because I think that again applies outside of substance, outside of everything. Is self-care, I think, is so misunderstood as like this thing we have to do for ourselves alone. Mm-hmm. And or also too, something that we have to pay for. Mm-hmm. As in, like, I'm getting a massage, that's considered self-care. Yeah. But I think self-care, the highest level of self-care, is asking for help, period. Mm.
Yeah, it's honestly the hardest thing and the greatest lesson and greatest gift I've ever given to myself, to ask for help, because like, again, right, ego is so smart. And I think a lot of people who, are in the wellness community or in recovery community or in, this space, have experienced some sort of, neglect, have experienced some sort of, trauma, whatever it is. And usually that comes with rejection. And so the ego formulates this way of, if I ask for help, they're going to say no. And if they say no, that means that I'm not enough, I'm worthless, I'm not lovable. And so I'm not even going to ask for help, because I don't want to feel the feelings associated with being rejected. And we don't even realize
so hardcore. That is so why I won't ask for help.
Yeah. And I see it so often, because like, again, what recovery is and what all this work in our lifetime is being able to sit in the discomfort and be in presence. And so asking for help is like being able to be okay with being rejected and sitting in the discomfort of what that is, and not taking it personal. Like, that's been a lot of my work, is just not taking things personal, and being okay with saying like, wow, I'm so grateful that that person's setting a boundary with me and like taking care of themselves by saying no. And it has nothing to do with me, and I'm still good enough, I'm still lovable, and like not taking it personal, but still stepping out, into the discomfort and asking for help. And I've received so many gifts, and I would not be in the seat today, I would not be where I am today, if I didn't ask for help, and I didn't have my mentors, I didn't have my friends, I didn't have my guides.
But let's take that, even you wouldn't be in the seat that you're in also if you hadn't received it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing, I think so many of us as well are like, hey, can you help grab that dish over there? And then we're like, wait, I'll just get it.
Yeah.
Right? Like a false ask, a pretend ask for help. Like, I need your, never mind, I'll just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think sometimes we baby step into help, but we don't fully embrace the help that's coming at us.
And my heart just goes out to those people, because I get it. And somewhere they had to do it alone. There's a story that got patterned within them, where they had to become self-reliant. They had to do it alone. They could not receive. And it's going internal, it's going inwards, and like loving self unconditionally, and being able to slowly start receiving, and like having compassion for that part of them that once was neglected, once was rejected, and had to be self-reliant, had to build these like amazing like tools to survive. And that's the like internal work that's done in recovery, in wellness, in this field that we're in, to step into power, to give back, to be of service, to become in alignment with your truth.
Yeah. I think help is, I think there's two steps for recovery. And I say this from recovery, from my perspective of like the person who procrastinates self-care, and the person who never learned to ask for help initially, but now it's like my spirit animal. But there's three ways that I hear help. And one way that I think we begin asking for help, and that first step actually, I think, is taking responsibility, which I think in substance abuse or recovery in that regard as well, is admitting you have a problem, right? Taking responsibility is that admitting that like, this doesn't feel good, and I'm no longer interested in living my life at this level. So whether it be you're a workaholic, whether it be you're a type A personality who's to-do listing your entire life and not having any fun, whether it be that you are abusing food or not abusing food enough, whatever it is, whatever pattern you're in for that coping mechanism, the first step is really recognizing that it doesn't serve anymore, that it's not fitting, that you're missing out on things that you'd otherwise like to do.
Yeah.
As a result of it. And then number two is that ask for help. And I want to point these three things out, because this is the three reasons that I see women in particular not asking for help. Give me 1 second. Do you need to go to the bathroom? Okay, take a mask. Zoe's here with me today, you guys, so I apologize. You're gonna go out the door and just go straight down the hall. Ask anybody for help, and it's that first door on, no, past the hair salon, and it's right on the left-hand side. And this room is 201, okay? Speaking of anxiety, this little bug is really struggling this year. So she's at work with me today. And learning all of this by proxy. So I think this is such a great conversation for that. But the 3 reasons that women, I believe, don't ask for help is, in my generation, I'm the Gloria Steinem generation. So you don't need any help. You can do it yourself. So that was one of the things that you brought up, is like, if you've been raised that you have to be independent and do everything by yourself, you'll not ask. The next one is, you're not allowed to burden anybody. You may not burden anybody. And then number 3 is that you can do it better than everybody else, that everybody else is going to get it wrong. So let me just push pause here. Hold on. So what are your vibes on those 3 asks?
I think completely, like, again, it's really deconstructing societal's expectations on us, like what we as females were sort of ingrained to think about self, and aligning with what's true for us, what's true for like what we believe and what our needs are. And it's different for everybody. And again, there's no judgment towards others and towards self on like what we need. And I think, like, again, like, that takes the internal work, that takes like understanding, because like for me, it's been such a journey, because the way that I was raised, the way that I believed who I was, that I needed to fit in to be accepted based on, like, you know, what I see on social media, what I see in the world, like, where all these things, it was like, oh, I need to look a certain way, I need to act a certain way, I need to be polite, I need to do these things, I have to have a certain job, I need to make a certain income, like,
right.
You know,
my God, all the supposed to's and shoulds. We so shoulded on people.
And then I, you know, become my inner worst critic. So it's like all the thinking, all the ego, all the subconscious thoughts, like, then again, serve me so beautifully to fit in alignment, like, with that persona. But it's like, you have to separate like your higher self, your higher voice, what's really like your soul's calling, because none of that is true. Like, it's ego telling me like, I cannot ask for help because I'm going to burden this person, or like this person's going to reject me.
Right.
That's not your soul. That's not your higher self.
Right.
And it's like, the work is right. First, awareness of ego, of thinking, of subconscious like patterns, of, you know, these ingrained thoughts that have been on autopilot and automatic for a whole entire life. And then slowly, you know, just separating like, what do I truly desire? What do I really need? What do I really want? And how can I step into the discomfort? How can I step into the unknown? Because I haven't been doing it my entire life, and slowly see how it feels and how people react when I do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And haven't you just, as you said, like, as a result of asking for help, you've had some of the most magical experiences of your life. You've gotten to witness higher levels of friendship, higher levels, I imagine, of love, ultimately. Is that what today inspires you to stay on that path of sobriety? What is the inspiration that keeps you going on this? Especially because, if you don't mind telling our viewers how old you are, because I think that is also sort of the like most amazing thing.
Yeah, I'm 24 years old.
And all your peers drink, and I mean, not all of them, but like your peer group is brand new to alcohol and brand new to like fun having and out there doing this every day. So
and the coolest thing is, like, I have literally no desire to drink. Like, it doesn't even bother me. And like, you know, obviously when you're 19 and you're getting sober, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to fit in? Like, how am I going to go to parties? How am I going to go to networking events, you know, as an entrepreneur, as like a businesswoman? But it's like, I go to that stuff and it's not even a problem. It's not even a thought. Like, it's not even,
not in habit.
It's not even an insecurity, because it's like, I'm so in alignment with truth. I'm so in alignment with self that like, it's not an option for me to like do that. And like, if these people have judgment towards that, like, that's their issue, and like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it actually is really cool, right? Because it's a easier way to filter who I want surrounded in my life, and who I don't want. Because if they have any judgments, if they have any remarks, if they have any things, it's like, that just tells me, you know, that they're not someone that I really want in my tribe, in my field. And again, no judgment towards them. It's just more truth of like a boundary I can set to be on this path for self.
Yeah.
But to your question of like, how do I stay motivated? How do I, you know, stay on this path, or like, how do I keep going, is like, I've seen so many miracles and I've had so many blessings, and I see it in people I work with. I see it in my mentors. I see it in all these things. It's like, there is no other option. Like, there's no other option of like, I can live in this lower field of vibration or consciousness, or I can continue to accelerate every single day. And, you know, being 24, it's like, you can manifest, you can create, you can align energetically to do anything you want in this lifetime. You know, no matter what age, if you're 60 years old, if you're 50 years old, it's like, time is unlimited. The only thing that's creating a construct of time is ego. And it's right. Like, you can manifest anything, and it's understanding that, it's believing in that, and it's aligning with that. And it's surrounding yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to do. And again, it's a blessing and a gift, but the number one step in this is like physically detoxing and eliminating the things that are limiting you from becoming that highest self. Because if your body is ingesting these things, your mind can't clear. And even behaviors, you know, because you're,
well, I was just going to bring this stupid thing in.
Yeah.
This stupid thing right here is my new cigarette. This is my new drink.
Yeah.
This is my new everything. Like, it does all the things that I need it to do.
Yeah.
It helps me avoid, it helps me not do anything that I actually want to do or desire to do, because I can just do this all day.
It's powerful. And again, it's the brain, right? Whether it's substances, whether it's phone, whether, you know, it's exercise, work, our circuits in our brains are aligning in a way to give us certain releases, certain hits, you know, to make us feel okay. But when you align with source, when you align with something like greater than yourself, you can get that same hit, and you can unleash like creativity. You can unleash like these gifts, this intuition, this like power that lies within self that still gives you that same hit. But again, it's on this vibration, it's on this frequency that like is infinite. And a lot of people don't choose that path because it takes work, it takes devotion, it takes discipline, it takes a daily reprieve every single day to do it. But it is.
I want to pause you on that, because this is what I think is so remarkable is, yes, and isn't it funny? Because again, if we see addiction, if we're going to use that word addiction, if we see it from the perspective of habit, it's just choosing to make a different choice. A habit around something that'll make you feel good versus a habit around something that won't make you feel good, right? I say this like it's so fucking easy, you guys. And by the way, the reason we're doing Sober October is because I need it. So what I want to talk about too, Theresa, is like you have a really beautiful ritual that you do every single day, Theresa, when you wake up in the morning. Will you tell everybody about like sort of your wake up ritual? Because I think that that is part of as well your habit that replaced the bad habit.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's key, right? Is like you have to replace habits with better habits
Right.
to get yourself back online. And so, for me in earlier sobriety, like just putting down the substances, it looked a lot different than what it does look, 5 years into recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just kind of want to spend a little time on this to like allow people to have compassion for themselves if whatever stage that they're at. Like in early recovery, it kind of just looked like picking up the phone, making one outreach call, asking for help. It looked like, getting up and, making a good nutritious meal, taking a shower, and, just the basics, literally the basics, and not picking up. That's it. And, just continuously doing that. And that's what the beginning looked like. And now, because, I'm like 5 years into this and, substances are no longer an issue for me and it's habit, my practices and my devotion and the discipline that I have to again elevate and become my highest self to do service in this world is I wake up, in every single day in the morning around 7 a.m., 6 a.m. before the sun rises, and I have an hour to an hour and a half meditation and yoga practice. Usually, I have a glass of like lemon water, allow myself a little bit to get online, hydrate, cleanse, detox the system, and then I hit the mat. And it's not an option not to hit the mat and do my practice. And it's allowed me this beautiful sense of stability, connecting with source and setting intention and manifesting like so much. And it changes, neural pathways, it changes circuitry, it changes so many things, but also no matter how intense the world gets, no matter how relationships go, no matter all the things that happen externally, it's like I've built this one thing of stability in my life that I'll have for the rest of my life that provides safety within self. And everything can be happening around the world, like around me, but I have this one thing that is like my one thing that I create, that provides everything that I need. And it's shifted my life so much. So that's like my morning practice. And it took a while to build up. It took a while to build up to it. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and sit on the mat for an hour and a half.
Right. But because I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking, well, for those of us with kids, I'm already making excuses. Instead of like, well, you could just wake up earlier.
Yeah. But again, it's like the beautiful thing about what happens on the mat, right, is like it's a representation of your life. It's a representation of how you perceive the world. It's a representation of like how you're going to go out on your day. And so when I'm there, I see the ego. It's not, first of all, anyone who tells you that they like yoga and meditation is insane. Like I don't know these people. Like I never wake up on the morning and I'm like, I'm so stoked to like do my hour and a half like practice. I'm like, I want to hit the snooze button. I hate like this thing. This is horrible, but I do it anyways. And I'm there and I see the ego come in and it's planning out the day. It's thinking about, all of the people I have to talk to, maybe some resentments that I have, like the internal dialogue that I have within self, the inner critic. And it's like, I'm on this mat and I'm, moving my body. I'm doing the yoga, I'm doing the meditation, and all these thoughts are coming up. But again, it's like, I still do it, even when it tells me to leave, even when it tells me to get up, because it's a representation of like sitting in the discomfort, allowing the thoughts to come in, loving myself still unconditionally, and realizing I am not thought, I am not emotion, you know, I am the higher consciousness above all of that.
Yeah.
And it's allowing that to come through.
Yeah. I love that. What is one like final, I want to cap this off for our audience and for those who are practicing in this idea of sobriety, or this idea of really releasing themselves from the pieces of their life that really aren't fitting anymore, the pieces that they're ready to let go of, the pieces that they're ready to just be done with, and moving into that sort of upper level higher self. What is something that you could say, or that you have said to your recovery clients, that you feel like would help land them or help keep them going?
Yeah. I think the greatest thing and the only thing that keeps me truly on this path is realizing that there is an energy, there is a source, there is something greater than yourself out there that has brought you to this video, that has brought you to this seat, that has allowed you into this lifetime in this moment right now. And it is realizing that, and again, seeing ego come in and saying, no, like there isn't, like whatever your story is, you know, because that's protecting you. And again, like I've struggled with this concept so much because again, I thought I didn't deserve love. There is nothing taking care of me. Like there is no source, there is no universe, there is no magic, like all this shit, because like I, you know, experienced situations where that couldn't be true.
Right.
But when I choose to live a life believing in faith, when I choose to live a life believing that magic exists, when I choose to live a life believing that higher consciousness, source, divinity, all these things exist, my life goes a lot better than choosing to believe it doesn't exist. And so every single day I choose to believe it does exist rather than not, and believing that there's something out there unconditionally loving me and allowing my life to manifest in a way that I could not believe. And so when I do feel stuck, when I am using behaviors, when I'm, you know, using things that aren't serving me, that thing, that source is in the background using its magic and its stuff. And actually, when I align with it, like that's when it happens. And so even if you are stuck, know that you are being taken care of because you are here, and it will happen if you do one small step to lean towards it.
Yeah. One small step. One
tiny small step. Drink a glass of lemon water. I don't care.
Right. It is. Sometimes it's that simple. It's something that simple. Like, I'm just gonna add this one tiny little thing in every day. I'm gonna wash my face. I'm gonna drink lemon water. I'm gonna do something different than what I did yesterday. I'm gonna just try to be with that thing over and over and over again, and then I can build on that. Yeah. What keeps showing up in my brain is you're talking about sort of the magic of the universe. And again, those of you guys who have been following for a while know that I'm super woo and psychic as well, as is Theresa. So obviously magic, woo, and all the spirit is something I very much believe in, but I'm being shown psychically that it's as good as champagne. Like, to be putting this in comparison, like if you think champagne gets you high, try meditation. If you think champagne makes you happy and bubbly and feeling awesome, try some down dog with meditation, because it is like about as high as it gets. And Theresa and I can tell you, like anytime we wine and woo, Theresa comes and helps me out through wine and woos, and you can get readings with her as well. Whenever we're done with wine and woo, we both come back the next day and laugh about either what foods we had to eat to come down or what we had to do to get down off the high, because it might be a substance abuse problem for both of us now that we do the psychic, because it's like a totally different high, like the meditation and the woo stuff. Yeah.
Totally. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
It's so hilarious. Again, it's hilarious to see the human body and just what it does, and it's so intelligent. It's so magic.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Theresa, for joining us and sharing your story and your vulnerability and your times through the highs and the lows. I hope that those of you who have watched through the entire video, I hope that if nothing else, you get just a little inspiration and seeing that changing little bits and pieces of your life doesn't kill you. It only makes you not even stronger. I know we always say stronger, but it makes you higher, actually. So maybe the high you're seeking and the comfort you're seeking and the connection that you're seeking, it is right here, but it also helps to open you up to all the things externally out here when you are not in the cycle of abuse and you're not in the cycle of coping. So baby steps, one thing at a time.
Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me. And yes, take care, everyone who's watching.
What's your website?
Oh, yes. Website is thewarriorwithin.co. And say that again.
I said .co.
.co. And yeah, reach out, email me. And I hope to stay in contact with any of you who feel drawn. I'm here to be of service in any way possible.
Awesome. So much love. All right, you guys. Peace in. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.